Good afternoon, and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Friday, and Jay and I benefited from that little commercial, that little intro. How's everybody doing? It's Momentum Friday. Yay. We missed y'all last week. I just want to tell everybody that it was actually me who called it out. And the reason I even want to talk about that even for a second is just to talk about what's real and in people's lives. I was not in an emotional state last week, Friday, to be able to pull off a show. And I only want to bring in my best, most authentic self. And yesterday, or last Friday, I had lost any wherewithal or any bearing of that. So I apologize. And we're back here on Friday to be with you. And if we're nothing but consistent, Jay, if nothing else, we're consistent. Big old little, snafu right before the show. It just never fails.
It's Friday. I know that there are some very famous radio personalities who've been on the air for like 30 years, talk radio personalities. And what they do is they have their interns go through, and your speakers are really loud, by the way. And they have their interns go through their old tapes for bloopers, for missteps, for special guests that they had, or some event, and then so they can replay them. And I would say that 50% of our shows has most of that. It'd be a long, arduous task for that intern to go through our shit and see what the last 2 years have looked like online and on radio and on Facebook. And if you're an entrepreneur out there and you've been following our show, or if you're just someone looking to shift their life into possibilities, I mean, this is what it looks like, or at least for us, what it looks like in real time to build a business and go through the growing pains of all of this. And I think for me, I know what happened last week, and I know a large part of that had to do with a let's call it just a breach of trust from somebody, that not between us, but between something that happened, and it took a lot of us to resolve the issue, and it got resolved. But this coach that we were working with, or this group of people that we're working with this last week, on a platform called Rheastasia, which basically allows a conversation of quantum physics and energy, and how to basically create or identify and work with the systems that are in your business, in your life, in your family, and how things are interconnected, and how to take a look at things in a bird's eye view. And one of the things that these people told us was going to happen to our business was that there's going to be a lot of shifts, a lot of energy shifts, a lot of things that are going to be moving and bumping, clients coming into our firm, clients bumping out of the firm, vendors, potential employees. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. And the reason why I am bringing all of this up is because it's all happening in tandem with a meaningful leveling up in excellence as it relates to our firm policies and procedures, the way that we were doing things, and really digging into the finer points of becoming masters of the craft of the practice of law in every single iteration of client services, the product that we send out the door, the realization that what happened yesterday was great and it could be a whole lot better. And I'm demanding that of myself. So some years ago, I, like a lot of attorneys, would say to a client, yeah, I'll get that done tomorrow. And then, 3 weeks later, it's still on my to-do list. Today, Janine and I were having a conversation before this show about meeting a deadline of getting something to a client early, although there's been some emergencies that have happened that really require this to get done. It was a matter of the promise to the client was so important, or is so important, that it means something to me more than it did some years ago, I would say, because I'm more present to why it matters to me that things are done the right way. So that's a painful experience. So for all your entrepreneurs out there who start their business and everything's going great, and then all of a sudden you realize that in order to perfect your craft, you're going to have to go back to some fundamentals, even back to the beginning in some cases, to relearn and practice things that you should have done many, many years ago. So,
Well, I think it's also, for example, I mean, I can't speak for any other business, but, in speaking to our business, it's a question also too of reformulating and reshifting paradigms. And within that structure, creating standard operating procedures, and also talking to your team, making sure that everybody on the team has enough time to execute and the time to meet the deadline, for example. So it's all well and good if one person in the team has been able to complete their task, but if they didn't account for the time that it's going to take team member 2 and team member 3 to get their task completed in excellence in order to push out a pristine product, then the original timeline was always going to fail because it didn't consider that there's more than just one component in pushing out a product, or a product, not a product necessarily, but pushing out well, yeah, I guess it's a product. It could be a widget. In our case, it's our work product, which is different than a widget, but it's still the work product. But all of those things are part and parcel of learning to operate in a different way, learning that we all are a part of a team and that it takes a little bit more coordination than sometimes we think. And it's always an opportunity to learn something, even though it's annoying, upsetting, disappointing, concerning, all of the other things that it ends up being. But it's always an opportunity to learn how to do things a different way. For example, we're in the midst of creating standard operating procedures for our business. Well, now I learned today that the standard operating procedure for promising a deadline has to account the time that it's going to take, not only to complete the task from you, Jay, the lead attorney, but then the associate, she has her job, and then I have the tail end of it, and all of that takes its time. Well, if we don't get into the mess of it and into the thick of it and experience that frustration, we don't know how to do it better next time, because that next time is the road to the excellence that we want to create. Excellence is a word. It's not the actual process and feeling of creating it. So the process is the excellence. It's the word excellence is meaningless unless you're willing to be curious about what the process ends up looking like, you
I
know?
don't know. I don't know if the word meaning is meaningless. It's a context. It's a context that I intentionally desire to create. Is the context of excellence.
Agreed, but it
And,
takes more than just saying it.
and I understand. It's like I can go to the gym and work out with weights, like I do. I don't go to the gym, my home gym, and then I would try to do yoga and realize how out of shape I really am. Because I've not used those muscles that would require me to do those moves like the yoga people do. God bless you. And
Yeah, really. Incredible.
I so respect the people that stick with yoga, and it's a matter of sticking with it. I just was having a conversation with Mike before this show. My coach, he said, this is a matter of consistency. It's a matter of practice, and we're talking about the muscles to do what we're doing don't exist yet. We are when you say that we're creating the policies and procedures, we had policies and procedures before, but they weren't geared towards the upgrades, the innovations, I should say, to the practice of law that we're looking to create. And the innovations are with each lawsuit. It's not just the strategy and the reasoning behind the lawsuit. It's the case management moving forward. It's the other innovations that we have, and the notices that we create to send to witnesses to support us in the prosecution of claims. I mean, there's a lot that fits into this, and we are building the rocket ship, and it is a process. And the more that I'm getting into it, the more that the finer details are getting ironed out, and the more that those details mean something to me. So, and I've worked with a number of law firms, and I've worked with this in the beginning of my career, the state attorney's office, and in state court, there's really not the framework of when does something go out and when does something get, when something goes out, there's a deadline to be received. But as far as actually creating it, making it your own, the process, I mean, that is something that's an art, and a lot of lawyers don't do it. If things just, we do get our work done. It just, there was never like specific timetables and the like. So we are in the process of doing something very special and taking on a project which goal is to advance clients' claims as urgently as possible in order to get everybody out of the litigation, including the other side, because spending money on lawyers sucks. And you know what? It's the number one most preventable business tax ever is paying lawyers. I don't think that people appreciate how much could be done with just picking up a phone or scheduling a mediation. Once you get lawyers involved, as we're finding out, there's a culture out there that just wants to feed the lawyers. And as a lawyer, I see a problem with the system because the lawyers have taken over the cases, and the lawyers are the ones that are hijacking their clients from being reasonable. And why? Because of the billable hour, because they got to pay for their marble floors and their tall buildings and everything else like that. And that is the crime, if there is the larger crime in the work that we do, of the whole thing, is that the lawyers take the clients hostage, even though that they have done some wrong. It's like, just everybody becomes a victim of this type of nonsense. So in order to take that on, we've got to create a outside of the box system. And that is one thing. But then creating the outside of the box system in excellence, or as whatever you want to put in there, structured maybe, is another thing, because you got to practice that, because there's no way that you can walk in the gym and fake how much weight that you can lift. And there's no way that you can play it in front of a piano, a piece of classical music, if you've never seen it before and you don't know how to read music. That's when the
Right.
lying stops. That's when the BS
Correct.
stops. And you have to get
Correct.
real with it.
Yeah. Agreed. So yeah, I mean it does. It's become, it's the call to excellence, creating the muscles to practice it with, and just, going through it each and every day to get to that place. And there's a method, and what we're talking about is creating a method that works for us, and for people who are listening, methods that work for you, to embody your version, your vision of excellence, right?
I saw before we came on the air. There's Tony Robbins has this. It's an email list serve that I'm on, and sometimes he gets some from pretty good offers. And there's this offer that he's got right now for a 5-day course for free that will basically show you how to create your ClickFunnels, how do you create your business, and how do you create the idea that you are best served to bring to the market. And then you learn that in 5 days. And I suppose that being at a lot of different seminars, as his included, and I really like his work, and I think that he's amazing to as a catalyst for transformation and change. I think though what gets lost in all of this is your start is one thing, and that good feeling of possibility and change is another. It's like getting a gym membership. It's so exciting, and then you get there, and then it's like 2 weeks later, most people have quit, because it is that use of the muscles that strain. And I think that what gets lost is that it's so understandable, the physical strain of changing your body by going to the gym. Everybody can relate to that, but I don't think there's enough appreciation of what it actually takes to become a person who's consistent at their job at work, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it's brain work, because the brain work is just as taxing as the physical work. I have the same conversations in my brain before I start my gym routine as I do before I start my research and writing routines. That same first 15 minutes is like, I want to check out. I want to, maybe I can eat, or maybe maybe something's on TV. And then once I'm in it, then I'm in it for a few hours. But there's that block, whatever that is, and it's because it's uncomfortable. And I'm getting better at it, now that it's a consistent, 4 hours a day or of just writing. And then also realizing that, hey, once you put in from solid 3.5, 4 hours, you're good, because you have other things to do. I have other things to do. So as we are going through the life experience of building something that's revolutionary and innovative and out of the box, this is the kind of stuff that comes up on a Friday afternoon. You're coming up against now not just things that have happened, but it's really your own internal promise that has you anxious.
Yeah, completely understand. And I feel like you have a team around you that, can make the promise happen. It's just, takes an extra hour or two, or three sometimes, but it gets done. So that's it. And listen, we're all here learning, doing our best, understanding every day what excellence, or what version of excellence, means to each and every single one of us. And growing within it. I spoke to a woman today on the phone who we worked with. She's a recruiter. She helped us to get a paralegal years ago now. This is like 2 years ago. And just looking at our website, she was like, oh my gosh, what have you guys been doing? Through her eyes, I could really see the reflection of all of the work, the hours, the dedication, what's been created, the intentionality, the love, the care, the concern that's gone into that. And then having somebody from the outside reflect it back to me um, was actually really rewarding. And to know that, a lot of times people would not necessarily stick through so much of the growing pains. I think part of, she's like, I'm glad to know that you're still there sticking it out. It's like a big deal. She's like, I didn't expect Jay to go anywhere because he's the Pharaoh in the Pharaoh lot. She's like, but I think it's amazing that you hung in there and that you are growing with it. And it's like, yeah, yeah, here we are, still standing after, after all of this time and going on and on going on and growing and growing and growing and getting better and getting better. But it's not without it's not without its clashes, it's not without its trials and tribulations. And Jay and I have a very sort of familial attitude, so relationship. And so what happens is that you take care of each other like family, but you also throw it down and fight like family. And that's always, the good news is that it's your family. The bad news is that your family. That's a
Well,
double-edged
were you saying
sword.
something to somebody the other day about like we're not here to be anybody's friends? I mean, I'm not there to, look, you know, we're hired for a specific purpose, and that is to support people to solve some things that have come up in their life. If you want a yes person, we're not it. And then if you're talking about the business that you're in, and that if you're talking about the partnership that you're in, if you're looking for a yes partner, uh, there's very little chance that you're going to succeed. Just hearing the word yes all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, I know that my best thinking put me into some very bad places, and I don't know everything, and that's why I like to to get feedback. I don't like hearing feedback. I'm not a good feedback taker, and it's a tough pill for me to swallow sometimes. And usually I drive out in my car and I'll stop and I'll handle it. And however you do it, it's just like this. It's like I think that if you're arguing and getting it on with your partner over things that are happening, good, because it's only going to make the product and ultimately the result better. Um, I that's you know
Yeah, listen, I certainly think so too. Do I wish that, it was smoother sailing sometimes? Absolutely. But there's a lot of growth in the clash. There's a lot of growth in the realization. I think one of the, especially in our particular partnership, I can't speak to others. One of the good things that I'll say is that we can get mad at each other, and we do. But ultimately, what we care about is what is being created here. And I think that that's uh, a consistent guiding force, that we're willing to go through the clash in order to create something better than what we had. And also, one of the things, speaking into to like the mini workshop that we did this week, that is really true. In some relationships, I agree with you means I love you, but there's no growth in that. And ultimately, there's no fun and spice to that. There's got to be some sort of contrast in order to really value um, the good. You know, there are days where we're just all business, but at the end of the day, you know that I've got your back. And, I can say the same. So it's not always rainbows and butterflies, but at the end of the day, there's that foundation of, look, we're building something, and that supersedes, a hurt feeling, or like, wow, did you have to talk to me like that? Or, all of the nuanced things too of, work spouses. It's just, it's complicated. But be that as it may, the point is we are in the service industry. Um, Attorneys are really highly intelligent. Um, Most attorneys are highly intelligent and thoughtful human beings who take complicated situations on and do the best that they can with that. I am not an attorney, but I am a part of this organization. And so I know that we are caring for people in a very delicate time in their lives. And that's also it's a strong guiding principle uh, for me and certainly for the firm to support people in the messes that we can get in life. But we also learned this week that those messes, those problems, are intentional interruptions and patterns, and there are ways to navigate your way out of that, learn what you got to learn, and move on with your life.
I think that that's it for our 30 minutes, and we will see you guys next week. And
That's it? Okay.
good luck.
Listen, everybody, have a great weekend. Get some rest, and
Yeah.
say "I love you" to people that you love. Just recently, a friend of mine lost his 19-year-old son last week, which is really a tremendous, tremendous heartache. And a friend of mine, Linda, I don't think you're watching, but I'm sorry for your loss this week. She just lost her mom yesterday. So, give your loved ones a hug. Reach out and touch someone and call them. You never know. And it's always better to be in the vibe of, I'm so glad I told the person I love that I love them. So have a great weekend, everyone.
Right.
Take care.